NetMagic entities channel strategy has been there since 12 plus years now, and it is quite matured policy now. The way we compensate our partners are two ways. One is we compensate for acquisition, which is where we call it as rebates in year one, and partners also get a recurring commission going forward. We also compensate partner sales and pre-sales teams in a different manner by way of rewards or gift vouchers and all that for a particular deals. In fact, we compensate almost all the deals. Then we have programs which compensate for specific set of services like security services or HANA services or co-location or a private cloud. So depending on the type of services, we compensate the partner sales people separately. So this is as far as the direct compensation to partners and partner sales reps are concerned. Our compensations are at par or even much better than our competition in the market today. If you add the recurring commission and the rebates that we give, the second aspect is the co-funding of events, which is there for select partners who meet their numbers, who have clear strategy, to drive the business along with us. So that's where we also do the MDFs, right? The market development funds that we have, and we compensate them for those. We also have small sessions where we do a lunch and learn sessions with partners customers. So we the way it works is we choose 5 to 10 customers of a particular partner and either bring them to a data center where they can have a look at the entire facility, which are state of the art facilities, globally one of the best facilities that we have, and we showcase them and their teams that facility, and also take them through the entire set of service portfolio and our channel policy and how they can make money out of this business. So if you look at the portfolio of the partners that we have close to 250 plus partners nationwide. The portfolio is mixed typically. So the majority of the partners are the system integrator partners who are the partners of OEMs. The second set of partners are application integrator partners, typically the SAP integration implementation companies, which are SAP's tier 2 kind of partners, not the tier 1s. The tier 2s are also the companies which are having about 2 to 300 crore turnover, 200 plus people in those companies. That's the second set of partners that we have. Now, both these places there is a clear fitment if you look at, because their core competencies and our services, they go hand in hand, and we complement to what they want to offer to their services. Also, the way customers buying pattern has changed in last 2-3 years, it helps these partners to have a single a single point of source of services for their own customers. So let's look at an example of SAP implementation partners. If they add the infrastructure and infrastructure managed services to the application services, it completes the bouquet for their customers, and customers are happy to offload this to their partners. The third set of partners that we have are the government partners or the consulting companies. Now, we do not want to directly interact or get into government business. That's where this policy or this particular type of partners help getting there, reaching out to those government departments, and they themselves register on GEM portals or they get empaneled on government portals and consume these services. Apart from this, the cloud and managed services companies, or we call them as a born in cloud companies, they are our partners. The way it helps is to complement or complete their services portfolio to be offered to their end customers. For example, if they're a partner to AWS or Azure, they can add NetMagic's colocation, data center, and private cloud services, which will be an additional offering for their end customers, because not public cloud doesn't fit everywhere. and that's where we come in handy. Then the two sets of services that we have, the managed services and the managed security services, that's where it helps them a lot to give a complete bouquet to their end customers. If you look at their profiles, they are neither system integrators, they are neither the application integrators. So that's the reason they are called born in cloud partners. They develop their niche by purely working on the hyperscalers like Amazon or Azure. They haven't seen the hardware, age at all. The good part is the maturity level and the understanding of the technical stuff is much higher in case of born in cloud partners as against the other set of partners. We do not try to break the trend of their competencies on hyperscalers like AWS or Azure, but we try to fit in where these two players or these hyperscalers cannot provide those services. So we act as a substitute, or we act as a replacement of those services, because one size doesn't fit all. So not everybody is comfortable on hyperscaler, but at the same time there are advantages of using hyperscale services. Maybe like elasticity or pay as you use. There are so many applications, there are so many services available for consumption without investing a rupee. But at the same time, something like Oracle, for that matter, right? It fits in only on the physical box. That's where they have to move on to the hybrid cloud. So now, when you think of an hybrid strategy, they have no choice but to collaborate with someone like us. 30% partners are SI partners, these system integrators. Almost equal amount, almost 30% are application integrator partners, because we changed our focus and we decided that we'll switch to the application integrator partners. About 10 odd percent are consulting companies, the small companies who are consulting. Government community is again around 20 odd percent government partners. Actually, co-location deals skew the whole mathematics or contribution of the way you will segregate the proportion of consumption, because colo deals come as a bulk deal, right? And even one or two deals skew the whole proportion of the way we sell. Positioning through partners is threefold. One is private cloud, second is public cloud, and third is the managed services. So managed services includes managed services and managed security services. If you look at the profile of system integrator partner, his intention or his goal will be always to dump the hardware to the customer, right? Sell the whole stack of services and make maybe 15-20 crore worth of deal and earn margin out of that. Services are not that bigger deals, but they give you recurring revenues. Now, to change a system integrator partner's mindset from one-time deal to a recurring deal was difficult about 3 years before. But now I think they have realized and they have put the teams in place which does both, right? And because there's a reality today, because in pandemic, if you look at when deals were not happening or deliveries not happening, everything was idle. But at the same time, cloud was selling, managed services were selling, and in fact, data center services and managed services were categorized as the essential services, right? Or telecom services were categorized as the essential services. I think that shift will come slowly. We are helping them to come out of that mindset, and it is helping. But our proportion still remains almost 50% plus on co-location, about 20-25% on managed services, and about 20-25% again on cloud and private cloud services. We changed our compensation pattern starting this year. We categorize partners into gold, platinum, and diamond. Diamond being the highest category of partners. Those who have been with us for a longer time, they have been consistently meeting their numbers, consistently onboarding new logos, right? That's where we have increased the compensation on the rebates. Now, as I explained, we have two kinds of compensations. One is recurring commissions, which they get year on year, and there is a rebate. Now, rebate they get for year one only, which is actually a compensation for acquisition of a new customer. The whole of channel function in Entity NetMagic works purely on acquiring new logos, which is valid for a year, for 12 months from date of acquisition. And second is the recurring, which is for the contract period of that contract. And typically in our industry, contracts are not never a short term. They are either 3-year or a 5-year contracts. So I think that's the advantage that we have. So we changed it, and we've increased the compensation for the rebates, which indirectly, which was almost, we have taken from 5% to 10%, so almost doubled in few cases. Nothing specific to pandemic as such. Earlier, we used to do face-to-face events in various cities with partners or partners and customers, or set of partners, or with OEM and the partners. So those are the various formats. But they have reduced. I mean, since they are online events, we're still figuring out, the way to do these events more often, assuming that this is going to last for at least 2 more quarters. One thing for sure is there is no consistency as such. Before pandemic, we would be able to easily predict that so and so deals will get closed. While we are on our numbers in both the quarters, it is not predictable. So we clinched few big deals, and that's how we made our numbers. It definitely impacted in Q1 to a good extent, because the indication of it is the number of opportunities that you lock, or the deal registrations, what we call it as in our fraternity. So deal registrations were lower. Now they have gone up from August, and it pretty much looks like a normal number of deal registrations. Fundamental change that I have seen during last 6 months is partners' inclination towards adopting the third-party data center and the managed services portfolio. So we got more retail leads. So they started getting requirements for less than a rack, which is helping partners to build their business model. For example, if there is a managed services partner, he can buy a rack and start selling and start doing a retail business, which we have been pushing to these partners for now almost 2 years, almost 3 years rather. But now they have realized that this is the business to be in, because what happened during this pandemic, people took time, almost 2 to 3 years of time, to realize that they are not able to access their setup, which is in their on-premise factory or office. And then they started looking out for options to move their data centers, which in normal time they would have not given a thought of, but now almost everyone is giving that thought. Those are the opportunities which are directly coming to those partners, specifically the system integration partners. So that fundamental change we have seen, and it is working well for us. There is adoption of data center services. There is adoption towards 2 or 3 more key services. One is obviously cloud, but adoption is still on a private cloud, to be very specific. We had to convince people to adopt work from home solutions, which will include remote access or secure access kind of services, which are offered by some of our partners like Akamai. Since the endpoint need to be secure, people are getting more aware of security services. And we think that next couple of quarters, adoption as well as the requirements in that portfolio will grow. So private cloud, public cloud, and security services will grow significantly. Data center operations being categorized as essential services, it didn't impact. And that is an advantage to our customers, or none of our customers impacted who are hosted with us. So their services continued. As far as back office operations is concerned, we pretty much adopted to most of the work from home solutions, including our partner events, partner trainings or workshops, or even customer trainings and workshops. So there, it took a little bit of time to get adjusted, but not much of an impact per se from switching from office to the work from home solutions. One was the partners customer event, and another was the partner event, which was addressed by our MD and CEO, Mr. Sharad Sani. I would call it as a consumption pattern by various customer profiles. The most impacted in this scenario was probably the manufacturing segment. Those who were already in data centers, their businesses didn't impact. But those people who didn't had, for example, disaster recovery services, those who had primary site in factory or in a head office location of their own, and they had or they didn't had DR on either on cloud or somewhere else. So those who didn't had DR, those requirements started coming in. They started seriously thinking of that, and in fact, it went off well also in those cases. In some cases, when where they had a DR, they could see if they need a full-fledged DR, because not many would do an 100% disaster recovery investments, because we treat it as a sunk investment a lot of times. But now they have realized that that's no more the scenario, because this teaches a lot of examples. So they started getting in there. That is one. Those who were purely on-prem, they started thinking of data centers. Those who were on-prem and off-prem both, they started considering even the on-prem to be moved to data center. So that has increased revenue for us, or increased opportunities for us. For them, it was completely moving to a new site. Business in connectivity increased a lot, because once you move to data center, you need to increase your bandwidth and the connectivity also to data centers for remote access. Then came in the managed services and managed security services. When their teams were not able to access, those services got offloaded, because you moving from on-prem to off-prem, you need to protect your infrastructure. So security service adoption is what is we are seeing moving good. Something called a zero trust service, that demand has increased. So we have Akamai as a partner, very strong partner, and they have something called a secure access, enterprise access service, wherein it talks about zero trust, right? Whoever you are, wherever you are coming from, whichever connectivity you are coming from, we don't trust you, right? As long as you qualify the policies, right, you get the access. Otherwise, you don't get that. Then remote desktop services, security adoption. We had to give them option to for a payment plan, but not really give any discounts or something like that. These contracts are typically signed for 3 years and 5 years. Maybe there was a short-term impact of not able to make payment. Give us some leeway, because if, for example, if contract says you have to pay within 30 days, right? We have allowed 30 more days. You can pay. You can delay a little bit, but discount as such, not much. There were requests from the customers in the initial month or two, but we were able to convince them. In fact, our cost to service to the customers had gone up, but we didn't pass on that to our customers. So with this, we could convince to the customers that, sir, while my cost of servicing you has gone up, because I have to arrange a dedicated transport for my operations, there are a lot of services that I had to provide to the customers, or deliveries, which I have already signed up, right? And then I cannot go back and say, now this is changed to this. So those services and that cost, month on month we have absorbed, and that is not a small cost. They cooperated with us. I think that is hats off to those customers also. The whole focus is on retaining the existing customers and retaining the existing revenue. I was acquiring, let's say, 10 customers in a month, new logos in a month. That has gone down to 5 or 6 for sure. But does that mean that other 5 which I could have acquired have gone to somebody else? Answer is no. So my funnel is intact. I'm hoping that the moment the situation revives, I will be able to close that business also. My existing customers, it is pretty much impact, because our focus is to protect the existing revenue and grow it. Obviously, in fact, in existing customers, the revenue has grown a little bit. Our efforts while working with the partners is obviously generating more business for both of us. But my focus for last 3 years with each and every partner has been to invest in building competencies. You cannot grow the business without investing in those competencies. If you keep on doing what you are doing, you will keep on getting what you've been getting. Cloud, we cannot call it as no more. We cannot call it as an innovative service, right? It is now very much commodity. But services like security, managed services, that's where you need to invest in the technologies. New age services like S4 HANA, which is one of the most adopted enterprise application nationwide or in fact globally. Invest in those areas from infrastructure standpoint. I'm not saying invest in applications. You have to invest in people, you have to invest in technologies, you have to invest in partnerships, marketing, in changing your profile from X to Y, because you now you are known for example, for some partner that I have, which is in the market for 20-30 years. Now his customers pretty much know him for what he does, but now he'll have to change his profile, what he does differently. He'll have to invest in marketing also. So people, marketing, and training their current resources, that's where they need to invest. And that's the message that I have for the partners to grow together. But even we cannot do everything on our own. So we believe on an ecosystem, right? So how does that ecosystem help? So you build on certain competency, which I utilize. I meaning entity NetMagic utilizes that competency of that partner. So he can be rest assured that such businesses will start coming to me. It is for sustenance of their organizations, not to depend on a OEM-led products, but OEM-led services, and because that is going to be a recurring revenue. The margins are shrinking. There was a point in time when storages were getting sold in petabytes. Today, storage as a service has killed that market. Or software-defined storage has completely killed that, almost killed that market. I can't say killed, but it's almost nowhere, right? People do not want to invest. If you look at other way around, application as a service, right? You get a lot of applications to be consumed as an application as a service, where you don't need to invest in anything per user per month, per user per annum. So you have to identify the trend where the whole consumption pattern is moving. If you look at the new age companies, they do not want to do any capital investment in IT infrastructure, and that's the reason even companies like e-commerce companies like Myntra, etc., fully on hyperscaler. They have to deep dive into their own install base customers and figure out what's happening. A lot of times they do not know. Those partners do not know what's happening in their set of install base customers. Something like, for example, let's say I'll give you one example. We closed a deal for SAP services, hosting services with one of the end customer. The opportunity came in from a partner which was different from the partner who was owning that customer before. Now he realizes that at the fag end, I mean, when deal was closed, it was signed. Now he comes to know that this is not going to be a customer for me anymore. But it, because the change of consumption is happened, and he doesn't know. Banking and financial is one. Manufacturing is second, I would say, in terms of consumption of services. There are various reasons other than pandemic. The way you reacted in this situation has changed customers' perception towards the service provider. The logistics part which got impacted more than the online operations. That's where a little bit of consumption in terms of bandwidth has gone up, because even their operations guys have started accessing the infrastructure from remotely. It didn't impact much because if you look at the maturity level of consumption of services or maturity as a customer, e-commerce are one of the highest mature customers if you look at. Then comes the banking and finance, right? Or healthcare also to large extent. Healthcare I would rate third after banking. So depending on the adoption of various services and inclination to adopt the services. it's a maturity of that organization to adopt the technologies, and these three segments that you mentioned are pretty much at a maturity level is pretty high in terms of adoption. There, the growth of business is more volume. Six data centers in Mumbai, DC6, which has gone live last year. DC7, which will go live this month in Mumbai, which is the addition of another 3.5 lakh square feet of data center space in Mumbai alone. In Bangalore, we already have two large footprint data centers. We have one in Chennai and one in Delhi. So this is almost close to 1.4 million square feet live and kicking. A campus data center in Navi Mumbai. Because of pandemic, it got pushed by a couple of months or 3 months max from a go live perspective. But plan is on. There is no looking back. We have DC8 in current data center premise, which is in Chandivali. A large investment coming in is in Chennai. Right? So Chennai being a landing station, Mumbai being landing station, and a lot of services from mid 22 getting launched in terms of connectivity. We have already acquired national long distance, international long distance, and virtual network operator licenses. Entity Netmmagic has already acquired those licenses. Services delivery has already started, but fully dependent on the current telcos. The campus in Chennai, which is also a data center complex, which will be launched. Again, both of these put together will add close to 1 million square feet. In fact, more than that in year 22. We don't go out whole out and try to get into acquisition mode of partners. No. But those who are interested to get onboarded and want to work with us, we welcome them and onboard them. The way we want to approach the whole thing is two ways. One, partner acquiring a lot of competencies and taking the deals on their name. We call it as a transfer price model. And second is managed services partner. So if we are successful in these two things, which our efforts are on right now, I think we will be able to at least have a very strong ecosystem of 120 odd partners nationwide, which can leverage each other from the business growth point of view. Because there are a lot of other services which are going to be launched in next year and a half. Our goal is not to increase partners in numbers, but increase the quality of partners and their competencies, which will help the whole ecosystem grow the business more. Instead of investing in something, you would want to use it as a consumption-based service. Cloud is one such example, and connectivity services is one such example. But if you look at availability of infrastructure in our country, in some cases it becomes a hindrance to adopt to those services or customers' mindset. But in next 2 to 3 years, growth of data center business is going to happen on-prem to off-prem is still the huge market, right? Because a lot of those 1 location, 2 location, 3 location companies with less than 500 crore or they still prefer to have the infrastructure on-prem. That will definitely change. The reason being, their next generation leadership is going to take over, and they are no more interested to have everything. You are not an IT company, right? Why should you want to keep the whole IT infrastructure and you have electrical person, you have AC person, you have data center person recruited, where there are people available in the market, enough people available in the market to cater to this particular requirement, starting from cloud to private cloud to, if you have a lot of money, you can invest and co-locate the whole infrastructure. That pattern definitely going to change.